Capitulation events like we're noticing here on CLNV have actually been historically known for upside thrust to follow it. But let's go ahead and validate what that thesis can bring for us, okay? So what is up, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping by once again. This is ARCa coming at you with a CLNV technicals, raw price action, and statistical threat of analysis on this happy Sunday. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share the video with a friend so that you and them could consider joining our trading community in Discord called ARCa Bulls. With that said, let's dive right into the charts. Okay, so yes, we're looking at CLNV on the 12-hour chart here. We've actually been riding this descending channel for quite some time. We've actually kept an eye on it too. We are making the fourth breakout test, and there is kind of a pause in the continuation of price action. Okay, so I understand that it is the fourth breakout, and it usually continues on for an upside move, right? But we have to understand that it is on the 12-hour chart, and this is a macro shift. So there is going to be a very large ebb and flow in the market cycles, right? Just like this here, right? Up and down, very crazy price action, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple things here, okay? So please pay attention to this. These are larger cycles. Of course, we looked at the cycles of liquidity grabs the last time, and we even capitulated further below the area that we initially thought, right? So it's not to say that it was incorrectly guessed. It's just these are very discretionary types of strategies and perspectives, right? So please notice right over here that we do have this capitulation candle before a huge upside thrust, right? We have a capitulation candle right over here before a huge upside thrust. There are several of these, right? So another capitulation candle listed right over here. If you can look back historically, you'll see another one right over here, right? So the price action is essentially consolidating on a downward motion, but if eventually it finds that true weakness and finds that bottom side, and it's very similar to what's kind of happening right now, and then finding that big downside capitulation candle before an upside move. Of course, there have been other times to where we have faced a type of fake out, but I mean the moves to the upside have been fairly fair, right? So here's another event right over here. There is another event right over here. So you can see that it's kind of in the general idea of how CLNV behaves before facing an upside move, right? So this could be a shakeout of sorts, or try to remove some longs. Their liquidity grabs were both the longs and the shorts, right? This way and that way and back down. And it looks like we have that that short liquidity grab here, and we have the longs liquidity grab in the inverse side. Right, so now let's go ahead and continue on the analysis here, because there's something I would like to point out. The stochastic oscillator, which is representing momentum, it does still have a very aggressive nosedive here, and it is still suggesting a downside continuation. However, the setup that's starting to happen is very, very interesting, considering volatility versus momentum. So volatility, represented by this indicator BBWP, has essentially contracted to a critical contraction zone, and is now starting to make that expansion phase. So in this expansion phase, that usually means that there is a high amount of incoming volatility, okay, and it is very aggressive. And seeing that we are now, I'm talking about the moving average and the volatility component are beyond the 15th percentile, this statistical move is somewhat 50% executed. It's on its way, right? So what I must express is that in order for us to kind of validate that move to the upside, we must correct the pivots of both the 3-day exponential moving average and the 14-day simple back to the upside in order for us to get that upside probability, right? So, but it's looking like we already kind of, I mean, we're very oversold already in several time frames, and and we are at a major support level right now. So again, this does not mean that we can't actually face a continuation to the downside here, particularly at about 362. But the odds of starting to bounce are starting to become very, very clear. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on the analysis here. Okay, you guys. So this is the 3-day volatility versus momentum backtest. The one prior to this was the 12-hour, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, yes, this is the 12-hour, and on the 12-hour, 6 out of 6 iterations have been guessed to the upside, making a 208% move to the upside. Okay, upon meeting that condition. Critical volatility beyond the 15th percentile, expansion phase following, and the pairing of the stochastics oscillator pivoted towards the upside. Now, in reference to the 3-day, we're still suggesting a continuation to the downside, but I'm pointing this one out in particular because of what you see here. Okay, so please take a look that this backtest consists of any time that we've expanded. So this is the inverse, okay? So anytime that we have expanded into that critical volatility zone, which could be considered to be the 90th percentile, and started a contraction phase from that zone, paired with stochastic momentum with an upside pivot, we have gotten throughout the entire trading history of the CLNV asset on the 3-day chart. There are 10 total iterations, of which 7 were guessed correctly to the upside, giving us a 70% accuracy with an upside thrust of 4,300%, which is just ridiculous, right? So, what I'm trying to say here is that the condition is very close to actually being within that criteria. Okay, so please notice here that there is increasing volatility. There is an increasing expansion phase here, which is a prerequisite here for the move to start happening, right? So we need the rejection from the critical volatility zone, and or the rejection from the absolute maxed out critical volatility zone to the downside, pivoted with an upside on the momentum oscillator. So the momentum oscillator is still suggesting a downside continuation on the shorter time frame. The reason you're getting the shorter time frame to the downside first before this 14-day simple is because it's simply just because the simple moving average is a larger time frame moving average. So the shorter one is a lot more sensitive to the price action happening currently, right? And also because it is exponential. Exponential moving averages follow a closer price action relationship to than that of the simple moving average. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move on to the next chart and see what we have. Okay, so this is yet again some more of those cycles to where we've actually faced some liquidity grabs before some pretty substantial upside pivots, right? So in this particular case, this is still that backtest that I have not completed just yet. This one is very, very large, and it does have 54 total iterations throughout the entire trading history of the 8-hour time frame CLNV asset. And there is something very interesting here, is that we are now crossing above the 15th percentile, and please notice that stochastics is starting to get an upside pivot here. So that is a bullish signal, which kind of gives me the idea that there may be a very short-term downside to be realized here before an upside. Okay, so now in reference to the daily falling wedge that actually failed to the downside, when usually this formation usually realizes an upside. Okay, so this could have been a huge fake out. Now we actually can take a trend line from the center of the triangle and apply it to the breakout point, right? So when we apply it to the breakout point, it actually shows us that we're very much within the take profit target of the objective, right, from this falling wedge. Okay, the price action has since moved to the upside just ever so slightly. So now we are at 0430 on the daily. And let's see, the 12-hour time frame, same valuation. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on to the RSI now and see what we have for the immediate short-term time frame to the medium term. Okay, so please look at the 30-minute immediate short-term time frame. Still a little bit of a downside pivot on that 14-day simple. Absolute downside suggestion here on the 4-hour. The 8-hour is still suggesting downside, and so is the daily. In fact, it's in the gravitational zone for a continuation to the downside. And let's see, the bi-daily and 5-day are still suggesting downside pivots as well. Okay, so if we were to look at the chart and see the potentials, then one of those potentials is already, like I mentioned before, right? So that it could be at about 0360 at the lowest point, but there are several areas in between that can serve as a point of support. Okay, so now in reference to the 8-hour, if we are considering another downside continuation, then yes, again, this is that same target that I have here drawn from way later, right? And it is the same target of 0360 or 0368 in this case, right? So we are at critical support zones, you guys. There's always a chance that we have a failure, right? But in this case, I do believe that there could be a very nice support touch, thus pushing us to the upside even harder. Okay, you guys. So please remember that I am not a financial advisor. Take whatever I do show and iterate within these videos as just a form of entertainment, as I cannot suggest for you to buy or sell any assets whatsoever. I need you to do your own DD and everything, your own due diligence, of course, right? And everything will be good. All right, you guys, please remember I'm also still offering a few seats to the ArcMasters trading course. Find the Gmail in the description below and send me an email and we'll get you enrolled. Okay, we'll go over the price points and everything, you guys. But this is the last course that I'm going to be offering. I will not continue teaching, as I believe I do need to focus on my trading for now. And I will consider opening up the ArcMasters course again in the future. Okay, you guys, but for now, that's going to be it. All right, so, yeah, I think this is a pretty good place to leave off. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you at the bell mañana. Adios.